I believe that everyone is creative and that our creativity is medicine, and not just for ourselves. It's our hope and our connection for a better world for all of us. I'm Ashley Riley, and this is Made of Dreams. Welcome to Made of Dreams. I'm your host, Ashley Riley, and I am so happy you're here. I've got a very special episode planned for you today. I've got my first guest of the season. So without further ado, enjoy the episode. Today I'm talking with Jennifer, the Bohemian Intuitive. She is a professional tarot reader and teacher, a Reiki Master, a sound bowl musician, and an all-around wonderful, caring human, if I may say so. She works with clients in person in the Tucson, Arizona area and all around the world thanks to the magic of the internet. And I am thanking the magic of the internet as well so that we can have her on the show today. So Jennifer, welcome to Made of Dreams. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled that you invited me.
Yes. So just a quick little note before we get into the topic. I knew Jennifer when she lived in Illinois, and I don't even know how long you were a client of mine.
A long time.
Like at least 10 years or so. And so
maybe closer to 12.
Yeah, one of my favorites, whenever she would come in, had the best conversations. And then, like you say, through the magic of the internet, I saw what you're doing today and I'm like, okay, all right, we got to talk about this. So here we are. And before we really dive into like the topic, I have a couple getting to know you questions if you're game.
Absolutely.
So here's the first one. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yeah, girl after my own heart. Okay. Do you remember the first concert you went to?
Oh, wow. I think it was like one of those Children's Miracle Network country concerts when I was little. I was probably 10. I remember seeing Crystal Gale, and there were a few other people we got to see, but yeah, that was real early on.
Oh, I love that. I remember seeing Crystal Gale's album cover. It was like one that I would stare at that my parents had because you just can't not with her beautiful long hair. Yeah.
I know she was practically stepping on her hair.
Exactly. That's so funny. Okay. You have to sing karaoke. What's your go-to song?
Maybe Harvest Moon, because that's just a favorite.
I love that. Okay, just two more. What is your most used emoji?
Probably the laughing one with the tears.
Yeah, that's a good one. And finally, I talk a lot about creativity on this podcast. What makes you feel most creative?
Having the time and space to be in the flow.
Yeah.
And having the quiet time that I set aside in order to do that.
I love that. That's so true. So true. Okay, so as I was looking at your bio, I was excited to find out that beyond just the tarot, you're also a Reiki practitioner and a sound bowl musician. I think I knew that at one point, but maybe just, forgot. I love both of those things as well. And I would just love to know what got you started down this path.
Absolutely. So when we moved to Tucson, I had a couple of different jobs, but one of them was I was a general music teacher at a school out here, and I loved it, but it really burned me out, right? It was 305 kids every week, ages 4-year-olds to 14-year-olds, right? It was a lot of kiddos, and I loved it. And I loved music. I was in a couple of bands. I loved music. And before that, I was a neuromodulation coach for an inpatient hospital here as well. And so I used the sound bowls as in a combination of that brainwave entrainment thing and the musical part of me that I still really want to include. And so sound bowls just happened accidentally. Actually, I went to a couple of sound baths here and I was like, that's really interesting. I bet I could do that. And bought a set of bowls and here we are.
I love it. It's interesting because it's funny. I went to a sound bath and was like, I think I could do that. I think I do that with everything that I love. I don't know if you're that way or not, but
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, is that a problem that I have, or is that normal that I'm like, ooh, I went to this and now I think, should I get certified? Like, should I do that? Or should I just enjoy it? Like, sometimes that's my question, you know?
I will say the certifications for sound healing and stuff, it's kind of a new practice. Do you know what I mean? So if you really don't need a certification because you understand chord structures, you understand music theory, you're a musician, right? So you could absolutely do that. It's like any other instrument. It's playing chords on bowls instead of on a guitar.
That's cool. Yeah. I think it's fascinating because I've always thought that music was healing. And as someone who, sings and writes, like it's healing in that regard, but it's also healing as a listener. And I've even seen studies where they're like using sound waves to try to find the opposite sound wave to like neutralize tumors and things. Have you seen that?
That's fascinating. I have. And each note creates its own geometric pattern. Have you seen this? If you create a note or hertz and you put it on a sound plate with sand, it creates its own wave, its own geometric pattern, and they're really beautiful. And so sound is energy, right? And that used to be my job with neuromodulation. We would put headphones on people and use binaural beats to help induce a brainwave state that we wanted instead of the anxiety state that they were experiencing or the addiction state that they were experiencing. So that was part of what I did. And I really think part of why I'm in Reiki and sound healing and tarot now, because the whole idea of being able to calm your brain waves, which calms your body, is really powerful. And in sound baths, I see that, right? So I do two kinds of different sound baths. I do crystal bowl sound baths, which very much induces like that theta meditative state, right? And then I do rhythm circles as well, which is active, participatory. That induces this in between alpha and theta state called flow, which everybody's heart rate kind of entrains together, everybody's brainwave. It's really beautiful when it happens. And I think you talked about that on a recent podcast about feeling really emotional in concerts, right? When you go to a concert, it's that same thing. It's neat that you can use sound to help.
It is. And actually, one of the first sound baths that I did was actually with breath work.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. Have you done breath work before?
I have. I'm actually heart rate variability trained as well. That was something else I did. And so that's using your breath to control your heart rate and the variability between beats, right? So using all of that science together with the woo, right? The woo isn't quite as woo as you think. And it's really fun to see all of this evolve.
I agree. I feel like the science is catching up with the woo in a way, or at least helping to like support it. And I love that. I think it's so fascinating. Can you talk a little bit about Reiki and what that is?
Absolutely. So Reiki, it's kind of two Japanese words stuck together. So Rei is like universal love and universal, and then Ki or Chi, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, is that universal life force energy or your life force energy, like what makes our heart beat, what makes our brain waves go, right? And so putting that together is universal Chi or Ki. So it's basically life force love energy that is channeled in order to help people heal, feel. And I'm very careful with the heal, right? I'm not a medical doctor, but there are lots of ways to heal, right? Sometimes it's just people need to de-stress. Sometimes it's their chakras need a little bit of alignment, right? Our energy centers, you can call them whatever you like, but we have energy centers, right? Our heart beats, our brain has waves, our stomach churns, right? So maybe there's some blockage in how the energy is traveling in your body. So that's really what it is. And it's honestly creating a beautiful, safe, loving space in order for that to happen.
I love that. My son laughs at me, but I listen to ASMR Reiki videos. And I love like when they tap the crystals together. And actually I was going to ask you like when you were talking about the sound therapy that you do with the drums, do you feel that some people are more inclined to be responsive to one more than the other?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think, I don't know, for me, whenever I would be in a drumming environment, even like marching bands or a parade, I cry. That is something that just really affects me and it's like a release. And so it depends on what people feel comfortable with. So, yeah, I have frame drums and djembe and conga drums and all kinds of things, right? In order for people to feel comfortable with what they're playing. But yeah, so a deeper drum might elicit a different thing. I will say with sound healing, I'm very careful. I don't use gongs because unless it's a real safe environment, because if anyone has any PTSD, gongs can really, that multiple harmonic resonance can really bring up a lot of deep feelings. So people who have complex PTSD, gong baths can be challenging for them. Yeah. So it depends on the person and it depends on the group, I guess.
Yeah. That makes sense. And cultivating and like and knowing your group and your space and what people are comfortable with. But I have noticed for just for myself personally, I feel like you that drums have this release for me. I feel like the rain stick is magical. That thing, oh my gosh. I'm like, what is that? Do it more. So that's my drug, the rain stick.
I love it. I love it. Do you have one?
No, I need one. But like when I
Oh,
go to
you
the
need
sound
one.
baths and they'll walk around with that, and then sometimes she'll do like she'll use a just I think a frame drum. Is that what it is? Where they just tap over you. That's my favorite part. My favorite part by far.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm very curious about the intuitive part of what you do. Is it throughout everything or is that something else that you
That's
offer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I consider myself an empath. I can walk into a room and feel the room, right? It honestly, it is up to the client. If they are wanting something more intuitive, that's what they get, right? If they want something more just working with their higher self, then that's what we do, right? I'm not going to say that I don't get crazy messages from somewhere. I don't know where, right? I do, but it's all consensual with me. So people feel comfortable.
Yeah, I like that. When you get those messages, is that something, do they always come the same way or is it something that's like
Yeah, no,
different?
they don't. It's so interesting. Sometimes I get songs,
Oh my
which is
gosh, I
really,
love that.
yeah, which is really cool. A lot of times it's pictures in my head, or sometimes like sounds that I don't actually hear, but it's like my brain hears it. I don't know else to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of however the person is sitting with me, how they will hear it or accept it is how I get the information often, if that
Oh,
makes
that's
any sense.
beautiful. Yeah, that is something that they could understand.
Right.
I'm curious, were you aware of like your intuition in this way when you were in your teaching profession for because you had a really long career?
Did. Yeah, I taught for almost 25 years. So I think even as a child I was aware of it, but I think as a child I was afraid of it. I didn't know what it was. And growing up in a religious household, it was not talked about, right? I won't say hyper religious household, but we'll just say that's not the norm, right? I think I've always used my intuition in teaching and I think it's served me well. But I think once I got out of that super stress, always hyper vigilant, right? Because as a teacher, you just have to be. I was able to sit and listen a little more carefully. I think I used it, but in a different way.
Yeah, like an instinctual in that lane kind of way
Mm,
rather than like an open maybe. That's
exactly.
interesting. Yeah, because as I'm now starting to kind of use some of these tools and take the time to connect with myself, I really feel like that's what tarot has been for me is just I don't use it predictively. I like to I think I take a bit of a therapeutic lens with it and ask like the energy behind things or like how can I move through this better? That kind of thing, just maybe a perspective that I am not seeing. And so, in a lot of ways, I feel like I use it to connect deeper with myself. And I found that I seem to have, I didn't think I was intuitive, but I'm like, I think I've just know things. And so it's like, I never thought that was intuition. I just thought everyone was that way because it's so who I am. And I find that I don't know, it's just interesting as you start to like you said have the time and space to listen to yourself how you become more aware of that stuff.
Exactly. And I think creative people really do have that intuition or that claircognizance is what it's called here, the clear knowing in the woo world, right? And it's hard to discern where that is coming from. Is it our own intuition? Is it something else? And so when we get those little hits and we listen to them and then things work out, it's lovely, right? It's
Yeah. I do feel like the cards to me have been like a really nice source of, not that I need it, but like in some ways just validating, yeah, you're right. You do know that. Like, yeah. And I just am curious, do you have any cool stories with the cards or any tools where it just has made a really cool sign or synchronicity?
oh, so many. Yeah, I don't really share a whole lot just because all of my readings are completely confidential, and
Oh, for
I'll honestly
sure.
just, yeah, and I'll just say, so I'll share like general things. I had a song come in based on a card that was weird, right? that that was a family member's song that these two people used to sing together, and the family member has passed. Like the
Wow.
song just dropped in my head. That was really, really weird. I will say I don't do a lot of predictive readings either. I don't like them. The cards don't have the power. You have the power. You have the free will, right? But so many synchronicities. I'm trying to think of some examples, right? I use a lot of different tarot decks. You can have a huge collection.
Yes. I love it.
But there's a reason for that. Sometimes the client who chooses the deck that we use that day, there'll be a very particular symbol on that deck, like a bird or a fish that is very specific to them. And lots of times tears flow when that happens, right? It's
Wow.
beautiful. So those are really, really important and lovely. Or I'll pull the card for the collective, and people are always saying, oh my gosh, you were spot on, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it reaches the person it needs to reach. I wish I could give you more specifics. I will say I tend to brain dump a lot of my readings as because I read for a lot of people every week, and if I held on to all of those, that's not mine to hold, right? But even just for myself, if I ask a question, if I'm ready to do something and I get the Page of Pentacles or the Page of Swords, I'm like, oh, I'm still a student. I'm not ready. Do you know what I mean? That really happens a lot. That kind of thing happens a lot. So they happen every day for me. So it's kind of just a few. But those are some examples of,
Just little winks. Yeah. I
yeah,
actually, the other week, I just did and I might have said this already on the podcast, but I did a birthday reading for myself where I just
happy
chose
birthday,
some
by the way.
cards. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I thought it was kind of cute how I was like, let me just pull a card for each week and then, or each day of the week, and then I'll look back and see what resonated. Sometimes I'll just do that. And so on my birthday, I pulled the Chariot, and I'm like, I'm a Cancer sun. And so I just was like, well, that's so cute. Of course, the cards did that on my birthday, like little things like that. So I wanted to ask you, you were talking about when you have clients, how you don't keep all that information because it's not yours to hold. It's like in the moment. And I was just curious, do you have any practices with the cards of maybe like, do you have like a special personal deck that's just yours or like ones that are just for clients? Like, how do you
I
see that?
do. I have a few, and clients are welcome to pick up my cards and look through them and decide which one they want to use. But I do. I have, I would say probably 10 or 15 card decks that I keep just for myself. And then I have specific decks that I bring with me. And I have multiple copies of some decks so that one is just for me and one is for my clients. And I don't know if that's necessarily, it might be an energetic thing, but those are just special to me, right? And those are ones that I really want to use. So for me, but yeah, I think just even shuffling the deck for me is helpful in clearing. If a deck starts to read funky, I'll just put it back in order and knock on it and then clear it. you know, Especially if we've had a really heavy reading, things get emotional. But yeah, I do. I keep a few special decks just for me.
Yeah, I find that kind of interesting. Like, maybe this is just one of those little knowings that I have, but my favorite deck, if you've watched, you've seen it's The Wandering Star by Kat Pierce. And
It's so beautiful.
I resonate with that so much. Her readings and in the books are just, they usually feel spot on to me. And I'm like, maybe it's because she's also a musician and it's just that same energy. But so I actually bought a separate copy of it because I'm like, I feel like this one's just for me. And I feel like the other one is for the podcast and for like
I
the
love
greater.
that. Yeah.
So I'm glad that it's not just me.
Nope,
Like, I
not
guess
just
it
you.
makes a little sense. So I was curious, do you have any favorite ways of working with the cards for yourself or favorite spreads?
Yeah, so the rose thorn advice spread that I do every day on Instagram is just, I think it's very similar to the pulse. Is it the heart pulse?
The heart, the ache,
Oh,
and the pulse. Yeah.
the heart, the ache, and the pulse. It's very similar to that. So it's rose, what's blooming, thorn, what's prickly, and then a little advice card from the bottom of the deck. So that one is really fun. But honestly, when I read for clients, most often it's almost like a tableau spread. So it's 5 cards in the middle. That's kind of the heart of the matter. 5 cards at the bottom, what's underneath, and 5 cards at the top. That's what we need to think about more, or solutions. I don't really have specific in that spread, other than that general guideline. I don't really have specific spots for the cards, if that makes sense, except that middle, that's really kind of them. I don't know how there's 2 cards on either side, the one in the middle and the 5 is really kind of the heart of the matter, I guess. Sort of a Lenormand way of reading. I read Lenormand too. So it's like the story comes out in that.
Hmm.
If I have too many placements, like I find the Cultic Cross, I know it's like the gold standard, right? But I find that one really difficult to read. Okay, what does this mean and what does that mean? I was an English teacher for years. I'm a storyteller, right? So creating the story for me feels really important, and just letting it flow. So that's really the spread that I guess I use.
I'm happy to hear you say that because I get a little overwhelmed with that one too. When I'm trying to do that, I constantly am like, what does this one mean again? Okay. But I have found a couple really cool ones. I did one the other day called The Compass, and it was
Ooh,
like, it was just 4 cards, north, south, east, and west. And it was like the south was what is behind you. And anyway, I like simple things like that. And then I pull a lot of like clarity cards. If I'm like, what, tell me something more that I can understand if I don't get it in that way. Do you have any tips for people for their own like divination practices that you think are really important?
yeah, free will, right? The cards are going to say what they say, but that's the energy in the moment. And you can change that energy if you don't like it. Instead of dreading something that's coming based on what the cards say, you can choose to change the energy around that. So I really dislike fear based readings, right? Like, that's not the purpose. So, also having a play, right? Playing with the tarot is okay. Like, you can ask it silly questions to practice. I do a card social once a month, and we play with the cards. Like, this next month, we're going to be rolling the dice, and there's going to be a question that the dice is associated with on the paper, and they're going to pick a character in a story or a movie to read for instead of people. You can have a play with tarot to help learn tarot, and you can also just play with tarot to get insight as well, right? Some people use it for creating creative writing prompts as well.
I love that. Ooh.
So, songwriting prompts, maybe.
Yeah, that's so cool. I hadn't even, yeah, it's like endless opportunities for interpretation and story, and I do love that. And I love that you could just read for a fictional thing just to get to learn it because that was one thing that I was like, okay, how many times can I ask it this?
And you're probably going to get a similar answer.
Yeah,
Yeah, even if the cards are different, they'll still interpret the same until the energy changes, right?
it's so interesting. To that end, when the energy gets funky with a deck, I had gotten a new deck, the one that I ordered that I was like, this is just for me. It's the one that I love, but this is just for me. And I felt like the first few readings of it, this particular new deck that I got just for me, I was like, it is giving me the heaviest readings. It is giving me like too much. And so I had seen this person do a deck interview where it was like, when can I work with you? And how should I work with you? And when should I not work with you? But I actually kind of just like did a little saging of it. And I was like, I actually would prefer if we could have like a soulful connection, but also a little bit lighter. And I feel like it actually did change the energy.
Good. Absolutely. And that's when I tend to reorder my deck, right? Do some, and I taught, I don't know who I'm talking to, probably guides, right? But when if you want to get into the woo, but when I shuffle, I ask them only for my highest good and only things that I need to know right now.
Yeah. What does the knocking on it do?
I don't know. Sometimes if there's like funky energy, it
Yeah. You're just like,
so
knock it off.
yeah,
No.
exact that you can ring a bell. You can lots of ways to clear energy. You can smoke cleanse. You can do a piece of selenite with your deck can help keep it clear because not everything is something you want to know, right? The setting boundaries with your deck is and your tarot practice in general is really important.
Yeah. Do you have a personal practice or do you kind of just go intuitively when you feel like you need to?
I used to because I went down a serious rabbit hole. Now I mostly read for others, but when I feel called to read for me, I'll pull some cards. But I don't feel like I need to pull cards every day. I might, if the energy feels funky, I might pull a card, but I'm real careful about the idea of giving my energy away, my own discernment away to the cards. If I went to the cards for every decision, that's a toxic relationship with the cards, right?
Yeah.
If I go for guidance or for, hey, what do I need to look out for today? That's still a little predictive. I don't do that a whole lot. Reflective readings for me, at the end of the day, if I feel called, what is the biggest lesson I needed to learn today? And pull a card or two, and then maybe do a little journaling on that. But honestly, because I'm reading almost every day for other people, I don't find it that I necessarily go to the cards as much as I used to.
That's beautiful, and I like you iterating that you don't want to give away your discernment, and like that's how I feel too. I feel like the cards should empower you, and it should never be like a fear-based practice. And if it is, I think it's time to step back and maybe just journal or do something from your own mind a little bit.
Exactly.
I do believe that there's so much wisdom there, and I believe that it really can open us up in a way that we need. But I also just think that we need to, yeah, keep our free will and keep our
Absolutely.
discernment.
Well, and that seems to be a problem sometimes. I get a lot of readings where people come because they're afraid. And there's still some toxic stuff in the tarot community, right? Oh my gosh, she said I have a curse and only she can take the curse off of me for $1,000. I'm like, no.
No.
Here in Tucson, we have to have a fortune teller's license with a huge background check in order to legally read here.
Wow.
So that sometimes helps.
Yeah.
But the fear based stuff, the prediction, this reader told me we were going to break up, or this reader told me he was cheating, or oh my goodness. I find that I'm undoing some damage sometimes instead of, which is fine, I'm happy to do that, right? But readers need to understand that they have a lot of power in that relationship, right? Because people tend to put the power in the cards. And so wording what you have to say, being truthful, obviously, and saying what's there. But I would never tell someone you're cursed. I would never tell someone, oh, he's cheating on you, right? No. If they're asking about a relationship and I see challenges, I'll say there's challenges. Let's explore some I guess I'm a solution-based reader. And I had a reading once a long time ago from a rather famous YouTube person. I'm not going to say who it was, but they told me something was going to happen in the future. And then I was afraid that is it going to happen today? Is it going to, even as a reader, right? And it never happened, right?
Yeah.
Because it was just fear mongering to get more readings. And that's problematic.
That is. Yeah. It is so important to find someone who is ethical because a lot of times people do come to a reader when they are, needing an answer. They feel vulnerable, they're in that space. And so, do you have any advice for people who are in that space? Do you think sometimes it's better to like wait until you're less activated to get a reading, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I do walk-in readings at the shop, right? But with my online readings, my philosophy is there is no tarot emergency. Because if someone is feeling like there's an emergency and they need the reading right now, they may not be able or willing to hear the message that the cards have to say. So usually it's a 24 to 46 to 48-hour wait for a Zoom reading or for a reading, sometimes up to 3 or 4 days, depending on my schedule, right? So no tarot emergencies. But yeah, if I have a client who comes in and walks in and who's activated, we spend a little moment grounding. We spend a little moment with some breath work. And I will say, if you come to a reading afraid of what you're going to see what you're afraid of, because that's just how our brains work, right? So I do have a lot of ethical boundaries there. I don't do third-party readings, which is like spying on people, other people. What is my mother-in-law doing? No, your mother-in-law isn't here. She's not giving me permission to tap into her energy. I have permission to your energy. Let's see how we can maybe smooth this relationship over on your side. You know what I mean? I won't ever, I have had, when am I gonna die? Nope, not for anyone to know, right? And that's one of those, they're going to be afraid of that date for the rest of their lives kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, no, we're not doing that. I won't read for the same person for the same question if nothing has changed more than once a month or so. They haven't put something into issue to have a solution. I'm not going to do that. The whole twin flame thing is super icky and abusive.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, we're a twin flame, so he completes or she completes my soul.
Oh,
And and that's why we're in conflict all the time. No, honey, you're in conflict all the time because they're abusive. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a really abusive situation. So I do have really clear boundaries about what I will and won't read about. And my clients really respect that and appreciate that. So
Yeah.
knock wood,
Maybe
right?
even, yeah, maybe even having those boundaries could, like, I don't know how you spell that out, but maybe even having them can make people think about what they're even asking.
Yeah, and I do. Actually, I have a waiver that everyone signs before they even see me, insurance and all of that. But yeah, we talk about, before I even start the clock for the reading time, we talk about the question and how to phrase the question where they're going to get information that is most helpful for them.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk just a little bit more about tarot in general. And since you are an educator and have studied it so much, what can you say about like the different ways to read or even just the origins of it? And people tend to be a little afraid of it. How do you address that? I know that's like three questions, but whatever you want to.
That's okay. We'll circle back to the fear one in just a second. But yeah, the history is really fascinating. In the 1400s, it was a table game like bridge called Taroki. And the cards were created for really rich people because often there were portraitures of the people who ordered the cards from the artists in there. And it was a table game like bridge, like people actually played a game. Or if it was really dear, because a lot of them were expensive, they were something to show off to their friends,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah.
So it slowly morphed into divination. We're not exactly sure when it jumped that line, right? Probably very early on because people have used cards for eons, divination. But then, of course, in the 1900s, the Golden Dawn, the Order of the Golden Dawn was a thing. The whole spiritualist movement really blew up. And the Pamela Coleman Smith is the artist who created the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck. There are a couple of options. The Thoth deck, that's Aleister Crowley. That one I don't really resonate with much, but the Rider-Waite-Smith one I really do. Pamela Coleman Smith was an artist. A lot of her art that she did for stage work, and she was an actress as well. And the people think tarot is this really old esoteric, and it is, it can be, but she died in 1951.
Oh, wow.
Right? So the creator of this iconic deck, that deck isn't thousands of years old, right? It's from 1909 and she passed in 1951. So that version of tarot and cartomancy is rather new, but people have been divining with cards and things and trinkets and clouds and tea leaves and palms for millennia, right? So her cards were the very first to not be pip decks, so not look like a playing card deck where it had like the four swords would just have four swords on it. That's like a Marseille kind of thing, a French version of it. But so they have scenes and storytelling. So they read almost like, for me, like a graphic novel because of the pictures. So there's a whole study of tarot in very different ways, right? There's the Jungian style, Carl Jung, the archetypes style of learning tarot, which is very like psychological self-help, journaling, looking at the shadow side, looking at the higher self, all of those things. And that is super helpful. And the archetypes is a really beautiful way to teach tarot. There's the Kabbalah way to read tarot with the whole tree of life thing, right? I'm dipping my toe into the Kabbalah right now. I feel like that's that's Jewish mysticism, and I'm not Jewish. Do you know what I mean? So, well, I think it's helpful to know those things. That's not necessarily a way that I feel inclined to read just because it's not my religion and not my it feels colonizing, appropriating. If I really dip into that, other people disagree, and that's cool, right? There's numerology. You can read the tarot almost completely numerologically and with the elements, right? The fire, earth, air, and water. So many different ways to, like, intuitively, like looking at the picture and what do you notice first, right?
Yeah.
So many different ways to read tarot. And I think that's why it's this rabbit hole that you'll never ever learn all of it.
Right.
All the astrological associations with tarot. The decans is a whole thing that you could spend a whole bunch of time on, right? All the astrological stuff. So it's a really deep well to learn, and however you approach it, you're going to get the meanings that you need, I think. Now, talking about the fear-based thing, can I get on my high horse? And if you need to cut it,
Yeah.
you can. Religion has done so much damage to people's intuition.
Agree. Yeah.
Religion often persecuted people who had intuition, right? Or knowledge that didn't come from the patriarchal structure of that. So, yeah. So when someone steps outside that and gets their information or spiritual guidance in another way than from the person who's studied the theology for 20 years, right? And finds it for themselves, I think that's threatening to some established religions. I think also people are afraid because they're not sure where the information is coming from, right? And there are difficult cards in the tarot, right? Like the devil card, I always say the devil is not some big scary beast. It's our own vices. It's our own humanity that causes us to make bad decisions or poor decisions or repeat cycles. What keeps us chained to bad decisions. That's the card of Capricorn. That's the very earth based card.
Yeah. Well, and as you're saying that too, I'm like, even the patriarchal religions have made us afraid of the devil. You know what I mean? It's like,
Absolutely. It's this narrative that you can't know things except what is this truth over here. And so when weird stuff comes up like the song from a loved one or the ladybug on the card and the person's nickname was Ladybird, they can't explain that, I think, and it frightens them. And I will say too, there's so much bad press and movies and like all these horror movies, and the tarot reader is never some beneficial. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's right. There are also a lot of laws against fortune telling in the United States, and they're actually very rooted in racism. The Romani people are traditionally made a living from divination, and there were thoughts about people. There's reasons they're called gypsies. That's a slur, right?
Right.
So to dissuade them from settling in their town, they would make laws against fortune telling. There's all these layers of bias that go back generations, I think. But I really think because some of the cards, like the devil, like death, people misunderstand, like the tower, people misunderstand what those actually mean. They're allegorical, they're not literal. And honestly, there are difficult things that happen in life, right?
There really are.
We all go
Yeah.
through difficult things. So why wouldn't the tarot or any deck of cards talk about the good with the bad or help you have solutions to the things that are difficult?
Because if it didn't, it would just be like what people call spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly, so I just recently had this memory. I was listening to a podcast where they kind of break down like archetypes and different things, and they were talking about the Tower card. I actually didn't listen to the whole episode. I want to go back to it because I was driving and I was like, I want to spend
Mhm.
my whole attention on this because it was so good. And I'll have to put that in the show notes. But what was crazy was I had a time when I was in Nashville in like the fall of 2024, and there was this little street festival. And I honestly, like I said, I had dipped my toe into the tarot, didn't know anything about it. It was just fun. I was like, oh, let's read your cards, let's see what they say, whatever. And so this is years later, and I sit down for just like a 3 card reading, and I pulled the Tower card. And I can't even remember what the other two were, but I had a couple other cards, and I was just like, oh, weird. Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, I have no idea what this is. Fast forward to, I guess it was April of 25. And like, there was a huge, abrupt, like, shift and change in my life. And I was like, wow. Not until, honestly, like, just about 2 months ago when I was listening to that podcast was I like, you know what? I actually pulled the Tower card before this thing happened, and it made no sense to me at the time, but like now with reflection I can
Mhm.
see that it wasn't anything crazy, terrible, predictive, like where, it wasn't like the Tower card itself, but it was like the way things were happening couldn't continue. And so sometimes I think it's just, what is something that can't continue like this? It doesn't have to be so dramatic. It maybe
It
can,
can
but
be,
it can be.
but you're right. The tarot is about breaking structures down that don't serve you before they're knocked down, right? It's the Tower of Babel. That's what the tower is, right? It's a depiction of. It's the hubris that we're building something on a shaky foundation, and then it's either going to fall down or we're going to bring it down.
I think now looking back, I'm like, there were signs. There were signs of what I went through, and I'm like, I wasn't seeing them. I wasn't seeing the signs. And so then it was like a big tower moment, but it's all is well. But that is what brought me to the tarot, because then whenever I was like moving through that, I just felt like I wanted, I don't know, it brought me some sense of peace to like have something else to focus on. You
Exactly.
know what I mean?
And sometimes it's like, okay, so this is going to fall down, but I always ask for messages for my highest good, right? And so
Yeah.
maybe that all changed. It was difficult, and I'm not nice washing. Difficult things happen. Sometimes the tower is just a difficult thing, right? But sometimes then you clear the rubble, and then that star is the next card, right? Which is the card of hope and your inner compass and finding your way again. So the tower sometimes clears the rubble for the star to appear, for you to really find your way. So,
Yeah. And that is that kind of like arc of like the story where it is like, okay, since I'm kind of new at learning them, but it's like they're numbered 1 through
mhm.
21 or 2. 1.
They're, yeah, so 0 through 21 technically if you
That's
if
right.
you include the
Yes.
Fool. But yeah, but a lot of people don't include the Fool because it's the Fool's journey. It's like
Okay.
outside of that.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it is interesting. It's like you said, bad things happen in life. And so there are more difficult tarot cards. And it's
Mhm.
just the way that we can, if it didn't address it, it would be nice washing, or
Exactly.
whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need a little guidance on how to get through those difficult things. And the tarot is really good at that.
I agree. I agree. I would like to ask you, we're kind of wrapping up on an hour here, and this has been such a fun conversation. Before you go, would you do us the honor of giving a little energy read for the week?
Absolutely, I will. Should we do a rose thorn advice?
Yeah, that would be great.
Something blooming, something prickly, and some advice. So I'm going to use the Soul Tarot, and I'll show the box here so you can see. It's really lovely. It doesn't have people in it, interestingly, but it reads
Oh,
beautifully. And Lindsay Mack wrote it. The big book that goes with it is all about trauma-informed reading. So it's actually fascinating. So let's set our little circle of intention that only information and our highest good comes through as I am shuffling this deck. And let's get our rose, our thorn, and some paste for the week. Okay. So usually I shuffle 3 times and then split the deck 3 times and then pull. That's just something I have. So, Four of Cups is our rose.
Aw.
So four, I love this one. It's a little sloth. So for a rose, the Four of Cups means that we feel really stable, right? We feel really emotionally in a good place. Here, this little guy is hanging on. But the little advice of this rose is there's also another beautiful little ace coming in the corner here. We have our 3 cups over here that we're happy with, but there's something else beautiful that is on the horizon here. So that's a gorgeous rose. And so our thorn, interesting, is the King of Cups in a thorn position. Both cups, emotions here, right? The King of Cups usually is very positive. He's kind of like my Mr. Rogers archetype, right? Okay.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, but in a thorn position, he can be a little emotional, right? With this new little cup coming in, perhaps we are a little emotional about change because the Four of Cups, even though it's stable, there's something new coming in to our field, right? So there may be a little worry about change, or we may just be really in our emotions, and that's okay. But knowing when to get out of the wallow is real important too, right? Okay, and
Yes.
then our advice, oh, I like this at the bottom of the deck, is a major. It's the Hierophant. So the Hierophant in this deck is a beautiful labyrinth. So following the path that is good for you. And there's a lot of structure in this read, right? We have the four, which is very stable and structured because fours are structured. We have a king, which is leadership energy, right? And then we have the Hierophant, which often is like the traditionalist of the tarot, the structures that are already in place. And so perhaps if we are getting in our feelings a little too much, leaning on the structures that are in place for us that serve us might be really helpful. Whether that is walking a labyrinth or meditating or having a moment to discern what it is that your truth is, feels really important here for us. So,
I love that.
and sometimes the Hierophant isn't really self, it's like CEO energy, or this is the priest of the deck, right? But I love that usually it's a priest with giving a benediction over 2 monks that are in a church, right? And he holds the power of the information here. But here the Hierophant is also Taurus energy, and there's some beautiful grounding here in this particular picture, because here we're up in the tree with the sloth. Here we're in the well with their emotions. No, we need to really stay on the ground to find our way in this little labyrinth.
Yeah. Okay. I love that imagery of that. That's beautiful.
It's a really lovely deck.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you. It's lovely to talk to you again.
It is. I know. I love it. I could talk to you for a very long time. Is there anything that you would like to share that I didn't ask you about that you think is just really valuable for people to know?
Yeah, if you want to learn tarot, you don't have to be gifted your first deck. That is absolutely not true. Please don't steal your first deck. That's also an old wives' tale, right? Just find one that you really resonate with and read the book and start throwing cards. It doesn't have to be that serious. If you're finding a reader, if you're looking for a reader, make sure that you research the reader, look at their Google reviews if they have them. Never ever, oh, I have a message for you in your DMs. That is not a real reader. And I think just like any art form or anything else, please don't use AI for tarot readings.
No. Yeah.
Please.
Not good at all. I know. I hate that we have to say that, but it is where we're at these days. And I think that a lot of people just, no shame if you use AI, but please don't use it for things like this.
I feel like it's getting advice from Hal, right? Is that the Space Odyssey?
Yeah.
The computer. I
Yeah.
know that's aging me. That was a long time ago, but it's that, right?
And how many
Context.
times, like, think about this. How many times have you asked, like, ChatGPT or like Alexa or Siri something, and they're so wrong? They're
Yep.
so wrong. And especially ChatGPT, if you're like, hey, this is actually, you said this, but it's really this. And it's like, oh, you're so right to point that out, you know? And it's like, it just changes. Anyway, yeah, please don't do it.
I was late for my very first Reiki Master's class because it was online because their time zone was in Ohio, and I searched and got a message from ChatGPT or whatever or whatever the AI, and it told me the wrong thing. It said 2 hours difference, and it was 3 hours difference. And my Reiki teacher called me, and I'm, like, just getting out of bed, so I'm, like, throwing clothes on. So, yeah, I don't trust anything. They get it wrong sometimes, yeah.
They get it so wrong. Yeah. Okay, 2 more questions. What is the best part of doing what you do?
I love being of service to people, and that's something I've felt a strong pull to do forever, right? Teaching is a service-oriented job. Now I get to sit one-on-one with people and really help give them some guidance, or the cards, they really give themselves guidance. I say the words, right? But the cards say what they say, and they feel more empowered at the end of their reading usually. The same with Reiki, and the same with teaching tarot, like allowing people the space to play and the space to understand that this isn't scary and it's something that they can do themselves too, is really empowering for me. And I really just love working with people and helping people. That's something I feel very called to do.
I love that. Okay, where can people find you online and work with you if they feel called to do that?
Absolutely. So bohemianintuitive.com is my website. I just did a big name change. I had a different name before. So please don't do the Bohemian Rose. It's bohemianintuitive.com now. I'm also on Patreon, where I'm doing a tarot grimoire series where we're going through each card, creating a junk journal page based on that card. And that's patreon.com at Bohemian Intuitive. I'm at Libra and Thorn in Tucson a lot, so there as well. And as far as Reiki, I am certified to do distance Reiki too. So even over Zoom, you can do a Reiki session. So yeah, that's where I am. And all the socials, right? Instagram, TikTok.
Everything's Bohemian Intuitive on all
Everything's
of the socials.
Bohemian Intuitive, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This has been so fun for me.
It was so lovely to chat with you. I am thrilled, and I'm thrilled that you love tarot, because
I do. I love it.
that just makes it more special. And it's so nice to connect with you again.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Head over to Made of Dreams Podcast on Instagram and follow along and say hello. I would love to hear from you. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider subscribing and leaving a 5-star review on your platform of choice. If you'd like to learn more about me or the show, head over to madeofdreamspodcast.com and you can sign up for the Dreamer's Digest and receive my creative state checklist to help keep you in the flow. I'm going to leave you with a song of mine. In the meantime, dream on.
Gonna love, gonna leave. Gonna take you back, honey. Take what you please. And I don't ask nothing from you. Give what you got, I don't care.